Hi everyone, so excited for week 3 of our Worryless Challenge. So last week we really started to create the vision. I asked you to write the vision of who you would be as a non-worrier and really like explicit detail, like what would you do in the morning, how would your life be different, how would your day be different, and hopefully you had a chance to do that over the weekend and you're diving in. And this week we're going to be focusing and really adding onto that by rewriting our story. So now that you have a vision of yourself as a non-worrier, we're going to move into rewriting your entire story to really represent you as a non-worrier. Because a big part of being a worrier is tied into sometimes your identity. So we can only be something that we identify with. So I'll give you an example. If you're a smoker, you're going to go buy cigarettes because you identify as being a smoker. Now, if you're a non-smoker, it would be very strange if I asked you to go buy cigarettes. You'd say no because it's just not a part of who you are. So whatever you identify as, it's very natural and normal for you to do a certain behavior. If you identify as somebody who exercises, then it's very easy for you to get up 3, 4, 5 times a week and do exercise because it's part of your identity. It's part of who you are. And so it comes very naturally for you. It's a habit that you've now ingrained. And so I want you to think of that when you think of a worrier. If you identify as a worrier, your brain is just naturally going down that path because it's something that's so ingrained in you. It's just something you identify with. So we're stirring that up and having now you identify as somebody that's a non-worrier, somebody that doesn't experience a lot of anxiety, somebody that doesn't have a lot of worry. And so in order to do that, you have to identify and really see yourself as that person, just like you would, again, as our earlier example, if you were a smoker or a non-smoker, whatever you are, you're going to do the behavior if you really identify as that person. So in rewriting our story as a non-worrier, I want to kind of go back a little bit. So whenever you have a worry, it's going to fall either into one or two camps, essentially. So the first camp is a worry that you can actually take action on. So let's say you're worried about something financial, like certain bills, for example. Well, you could maybe redo your budget. You could look at maybe you could pull money from a certain mutual fund account, or I'm just giving examples, but there's worries that you can take action on. If you're worried about your health, a particular thing about your health, is there something you can take action on? So you want to have a list of those worries and see, okay, well, what action can I take on these, right? Because those are all tangible things that you can do. So that in itself, just by taking action, it's going to lower your stress. It's going to lower your anxiety by like seeing what they are and seeing, okay, what action can I take to alleviate this worry? Because the worry in itself isn't going to get rid of it, right? So you want to be able to take action. So that's the first camp, so worries that you can actually take action on. I would encourage you to do that. Take action, ideally inspired action, but I'm going to shelf that because that could lead to a whole other video. And then the second kind of worry is worry that you can't control. Under this camp would be other people's behavior, right? We can't control other people's behavior. Maybe your mother is having a health concern. You could give her advice, you could send her articles, you can help take her to the doctor. There's certain things you can do, but there's certain things that you're not going to be able to control. So anything that you can't control, you can't control other people, you can't control certain circumstances. So anything that falls under that camp, you really have to kind of just surrender and know that you're not going to be able to control it and be at peace with that. And so that is really just that kind of, we'll get into that more next week and the following. We have 2 more weeks to go since October has 5 weeks. The last week we really talk about surrender and letting that go. So we'll get into that, but just know, again, there's 2 camps. There's either worry that you can take action on or worries that you can't. And if there are, I would definitely encourage you to. Because rewriting part of your story is somebody that's taking action or surrendering, but not just staying stuck in worry, because worry isn't helping either scenario, right? And so as we rewrite our story, it gets broken down into 3 parts. So one is looking at the root cause of your worry. this can get a little tricky. And again, in all of you, in a previous email, I shared a link for you to be able to have a one-on-one session with me. And I am so happy to dive into this with any of you that want to explore this further. So you can just go to my website, drericaustin.com, and schedule a free introductory call where we can dive into this. But this is, you really want to look at familial patterns. So a lot of our worries basically come from something that you grew up just observing and it became part of your subconscious. So a lot of who we are, a lot of our patterns got cemented by the time we were 7. So you might want to look back and say, okay, was there constant money struggles in our house? Was that something that always, was just prevalent? Or look at your history, look at something that was very prevalent in your family. You want to try to understand it. Why? Because the more self-awareness you have, the more you're able to understand, oh, okay, this is why this is here. This is why this is continue to play out and maybe magnify. And it just allows you to kind of see it as something that you didn't necessarily get to choose, but that you now get to choose what you're going to do with it. So in really just observing and noticing where the pattern is coming from, the root cause, it helps you to create a new pattern. And that is very significant because you don't only change it for yourself, but you could potentially change it for future generations. You're really breaking a generational pattern. And so that's really significant. You want to look at when we're rewriting our story, you first want to look at the root cause. Where is this coming from? The more self-aware you are, the less likely you are to repeat a pattern. And then what we've really worked on from week 1 is what I like to call as your critical minute. So as soon as you observe a worry thought come in, you really have about 20 seconds, but it can last up to a minute for you to either go down that same path of letting the worry take over. And if it's gone past like a minute or 2, you can just get derailed down like worry thoughts, right? But if you catch it within like the first minute, you can become the observer of your thought instead of being fully in the thought. And when you become the observer of your thought, you're literally just observing it. You're like, oh, there's that worry thought again. I remember learning that this was a pattern in my family. I know that I've done this for the past 20 years. I'm choosing to do something differently about it. Instead of engaging it, I'm just gonna sit here and observe it. So the more you can be the person like observing the worry, the more you're definitely creating that new neural pathway we keep talking about. So the important things in rewriting your story are figure out the root cause as much as you can. The more self-awareness, the better. 2 is remember that critical minute. That critical minute is when you are either going down old familiar paths or taking on that new identity as a non-worrier. So the more you can be the observer, the more you're in that route of becoming the non-worrier. And then the third component about rewriting your story as a non-worrier that I really want you to do for the rest of our challenge together is I want you to physically rewrite your non-worry story every morning from here on out. So I'm going to start doing this on Instagram every morning. I've tried several journaling modules, and there's so many that have helped me in my own life. It depends on the particular goal that I'm working on. So in this case, we're trying to eliminate a behavior. And so since we're trying to eliminate a behavior and create a new identity, we're going to do what's called future self-journaling. And so you have more explanation of this in the email, but basically how this starts is you do it ideally first thing in the morning after you are up and awake a little bit. Maybe you've had your tea or coffee or celery juice or however you start your morning. You want to then start to carve in, and I know that this is something new, so when you get a chance, try to carve in at least 10 to 15 minutes. If you can carve out 20, that'd be awesome, but I know that some people are rushing around in the morning, so do what you can. You want to make it doable. It's better to have some time than to say, oh, I don't have time for that and just ditch it all together. But when you do future self journaling, remember our new identity is the non-worrier. So you're writing as the non-worrier. I had you write the vision, but now you want to put it into a daily practice. And the way that you're going to do this is by really starting your future self journal as that. So you're physically like writing, I am a non-worrier. And so you want to kind of describe it more in a positive light. So I'm calm, I am mindful, and then how you're going to particularly practice those behaviors that particular day. So let's say that you're going to, you have to give a presentation, and that really triggers your worry thoughts. So how are you, as the calm, mindful person, going to approach that presentation? So what you're doing here is you're getting your mind to see these daily scenarios in a new way, in a new non-worrier way. So instead of just having a big overarching vision, which you did, and which is great because it laid the foundation for this new identity of yours, now you're like laying on the bricks every single day, because every single day that you write it, you're reminding your brain, oh, this is how I function in the world now. And you're really applying it to things that you have coming up that particular day, which is huge, right? Because then you're now going into the future of playing out, you're visualizing how you're interacting in your world as this non-worrier. And that is really enabling you to become that person more and more and more and more. And so the more you do this every day, the more it's an ingrained pattern. And if you continue to do it during our challenge, I promise you this behavior will be eradicated. And so again, I'm going to be doing this with you. I'm going to show you, kind of give you more explicit detail about how to do it. But just for now, just know that you want to set aside at least 10 minutes every morning. You're going to be approaching your day as the non-worrier. So I'm calm, I'm mindful, and then you're going to write about what you're going to do. I have this presentation coming up, and this is how I'm going to do this as the non-worrier. And you really want to write it in the present. You want to end with gratitude, because that's going to shift your mind to everything that you have. So worriers tend to focus on what they don't have or what's missing. So this just shifts your focus to, okay, I might have this concern about this, but I have all these wonderful positive things going on in my life. And it's going to just help you experience things from a whole different perspective. So this week, you're gonna really look at the root cause, just to have more self-awareness, more self-understanding. That's a huge part of healing and just changing any behavior that you want to change. You're going to remember that critical minute when you notice a worry thought. Instead of engaging it, you're going to become the observer. And then third, a very important practice that we're going to put into place is you're going to start doing future self-journaling around your new identity as the new calm, mindful person. And you're going to plug in how you're going to show up in different scenarios that you have going on that day as that new person. And by doing these small visualizations every day, which is essentially what you're doing, you're well on your way to creating new patterns and getting rid of the worrier component of you that you wanted to eradicate, more and more. And the exciting thing is just how much more opens up for you just by allowing that mental space. So this is exciting. This is something that I hope you really hold on to, because it's definitely transformational. It has the power to transform your life. I'm super excited for those of you that implement it, and just to hear back the wonderful things that you see coming about in your life. So thank you again for hanging on with the challenge. Thank you for the feedback, the emails. I love hearing just the progress and the questions that come along. So until next time, I'm Dr. Eric Austin, and just so excited that you're here and excited for you to implement these practices today. Take care.